Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Josh Does Life. I'm Josh, and we are going to be talking about grills today. So I'm a big time griller. I love grilling. We probably grill here at the house at least twice a week, sometimes more. So we eat a ton of grilled food. When I have time, I smoke a lot of meats as well. But I wanted to go over what I use and kind of the reasons why and my experiences in grilling myself. So, even at a younger age, my dad had an actually custom built brick type smoking grill in our backyard. So he was always into it. We grew up as a grilling family. We grilled a lot of meals. So I really jumped into it and really took off with it after my teenage years. I think it got to where, when I would even go to get-togethers and parties, I always tried to grill something to carry over or smoke something. So over the years, the number of grills I've had tons of them. I started out a lot with propane grills, and what I didn't like about them is they were easy to use, don't get me wrong, and that's the fast way to do things. You light it up and you're ready to grill. What I didn't like about it is I had to put a lot more effort into cleaning them. They even though the majority of them have like a jar or some kind of grease trap, or a pan to catch grease, the burners themselves always have a cover over them, and that grease always drops all over that and usually ends up rusting them out. Even on higher end grills, I had some expensive ones, the same things happen. So I was always buying parts and changing things out. They would tend to rust out really quickly over a period of a couple years. So that, and I know that a lot of people are going to say, well, you can add, if you want that smoke taste, you can add smoking chips to it. They have smoke boxes for propane grills. I tried all that stuff, but I just always like the taste better of food when it's cooked on a charcoal grill. So I've been a really big fan of charcoal. Like I said, I've had a number of propane grills. I just really didn't enjoy them as much and didn't enjoy grilling on them as much. So when I made the transition to completely using charcoal, probably about 8 years ago, before that I had both. I would always keep a propane grill and charcoal grill, and I based it on how much time I had. If I got off work and was in a rush to do something, then I would light up the propane grill just because it was quicker and grill on it. If I wanted to go for that slower, longer cook, or better cook, what I call it, I would go over to my charcoal grill. I finally did away with all the propane grills, and I now have, I think, 4 charcoal grills altogether. So I have 2 Webers. I have a 22-inch Weber that I keep up on the deck that I use for cooking just for my family here at the house. I have a 26-inch Weber that I keep down at the pool for when we have company over, friends, family, whatever, get-togethers. I use that, the 26, for the grilling space to be able to cook more food at one time. I have a big green egg that I thought I would really love and be into, but I rarely ever use it. The only times I've ever really used it are to cook a brisket on. That's about all I've ever used it for. It gets very little use. It's covered up on what I call my little grilling deck down on the lower level at the pool. And then I have I think it's the little Weber, was it Smoky Joe or something like that. That's an 18-inch that is portable, and I use that when we go camping. So I have several grills. The number one that I use every week is the 22-inch Weber that's up on our top deck. And I'm going to walk you around and I'll show you the ins and outs to each of these grills. This 22-inch that I have now is not very old. I did have another 22-inch Weber that I had for a number of years, and nothing was wrong with it. We just had a big storm come up, and the location I left it on the deck, it blew off, and it wasn't on the top deck here with the railing. It was on one of the lower decks, and it blew off and got all beat up. So I retired that one and bought another one. Now I usually go, when I get the 22-inch, I get the premium versus the standard, and the only difference really you get with that is you get the collection bin in the bottom of it for charcoal, versus if you buy the original kettle grill, you just get a little pan in the bottom. It depends on how much money you want to spend. I think the original Weber is you can usually get for between $75 $80, somewhere around there. When you get the premium, you're gonna spend just over $100. And they make one other series, and I did have one at one time, and I can't think of what it is. I'll put a link to it or go back and mention it later in the video if it comes to me. It's a step over the premium, and the only thing really that I noticed that it added on, it had a little rail attached to it that you could set the lid on, versus the one I have, the premium, it just has kind of a hook that you can hook the lid on the side of the grill. But I haven't, you know, when I had the other one, I really didn't use that a lot, the lid holder. I usually end up taking the lid off, just setting it to the side anyway. So it wasn't a big deal for me, and it was a good bit more money. So like I said, I think the premium is just over $100, and then you jump up to like $145, $150, I think, for the other one that has that lid holder built in. The 26-inch, you know, you're only gaining a few inches there, but it really has been beneficial when I've had guests over, you know, to people bringing their own meats or whatever, or we provide. You can just get a lot more on it in that few inches. The downside to it is the price tag on that. The price tag for those few inches, I think it came in just over $300. I think it was maybe $320, something like that. I mean, it's a lot more money, you know, to gain those few extra inches. But, you know, it depends on, do you need that or not. It's not one that I grill on a lot, but I have it for when I need to make bigger meals. So, you know, it's paid off. I do, you know, if I broke it or lost it or whatever, I would buy another one because it is very useful to me. The other thing that I have that's not a grill that I use to basically just smoke pork butts is an electric smoker. I love it as well. I'll show you which one I have here in just a second too. I've had it probably 3 to 4 years, something like that. It's never given me any issues. I don't actually clean it like you're supposed to all the time. I do try to wipe it out with vinegar time to time, but it's really handy. And like I said, the only thing I use it for is smoking pork butts. I mean, if pork butts are cheaper, they're easy, it's hard to mess them up, so I do, that's kind of my go-to when we have friends and family over anyway, or if I just want to, you know, let something cook overnight and do a little meal prep for a couple days. It's just kind of the way to go. It's very easy, and I'll show you that, like I said, in a second. So I'm going to turn around and show you. I'll stop the video and we'll go to each grill and the location I have them, and I'll show you kind of a little tour, I guess, of each. And I'm interested to know, you know, you guys let me know in the comments what kind of grills you prefer, or if you prefer propane for any other reasons over charcoal. Like I said, I don't like them as much because I just don't think you get the same taste out of it, and then I ended up cleaning that a lot more than charcoal. Charcoal, I know everybody's like, oh, it's messy, you have to empty out the ashes. Well, in these Webers with the bin, it's got a little handle, and you move back and forth and it knocks all the ashes down into the bin, pull it off and dump it out. I mean, it's really easy. And I don't have the same problem with the grease. The grease drips onto the ashes and kind of just burns up. So, I mean, I never have an issue with grease on it. So, I mean, it's just my thoughts and my opinion and what I like best and what I like to use. I don't see myself going back to a propane grill. But, you know, I understand the reasons some people would like them, and some people love the taste of food cooked on a propane grill. You can't tell the difference at times, or you add that smoker box in there to get the taste that a lot of people go after. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on it. I'm always interested to hear what everybody else thinks about things and other opinions. And we'll stop now and go around and take a look at my grills. Okay guys, so this is my 22-inch Weber. That, you know, it's just, these kettle grills are really just plain Jane. There's nothing to it really. You can pick them up at Lowe's, Home Depot, anywhere you choose to. Any of the sport stores, Dick's, Academy, all that type stuff. Almost everywhere sells them. Like everybody that sees my videos, you know I'm a big Amazon advocate. I order most things that I have, and I will put my Amazon affiliate link to each of these grills down in the comment section, so you can order it off that if you'd like, and it'll, you know, I'll get a couple dollars for it, and it'll help me as well. So this is it. It's just standard, you know. It's got the heat shield for the handle, it's got your temperature gauge, it's got your back vent, a couple handles on the side, then I have that charcoal stir there. Underneath, that's the basket I was talking about. The wheels are plastic. They hold up pretty well. And like I said, when you come around here, it's basically you just move this handle back and forth to drop the ashes down into the bin and pull it off and empty it out. Really simplistic, easy to use. And this was from our last cook. Now you'll notice all the charcoal over to one side. Sometimes when I'm cooking meat, if I'm not in a hurry, I like to cook it indirectly, like my steaks and chicken. Now burgers, I'm gonna spread coals out and cook them directly over coals. Hot dogs, the same thing. But if I'm cooking steaks or chicken, I like to cook them indirectly, so I'll pile up the coals on one side and then put the meat on the other. For steaks, you know, doing like that, I usually let them cook for 20 to 30 minutes depending. And then chicken I let usually go about 40 to 45 minutes. But anyway, that's it. That's going to be the 22-inch Weber. Okay, and here we have the 26-inch. And this one has the handle for the lid. Like I was saying, they do make a model in the 22 that has that same feature. Like I said, I don't use it. I just set the lid over to the side. I usually have a wooden table just for that. So I've kind of got it out here at the pool. But this one is my friends and family grill. Exact same setup. You know, it's got the ash basket. Everything's the same except for, like I said, this, that you can slide the lid back on. Like I said, I rarely even use that, but it's there if you like to. You know, for the few extra inches, it really does make a big difference. That's a huge cooking space. I can get a lot of meat on this thing. The other thing that, you know, I'm not necessarily sure of, but it seems like this one is made out of a thicker gauge of metal. It's the weight difference in it is really a big thing. The 22-inch that I have is really light, easy to move around, and the lid, you know, you can kind of, if you work on it a little bit, you can kind of bend it a little bit. This one is a lot heavier, so I think being the bigger size, maybe they use a different gauge of metal to make it. All these grills, I think this is like a powder coating finish they put on them. I've never had one have any rust. The only thing I've ever had to replace on these is the bottom charcoal grate. Over time, I have found those will rust out, and they're not that expensive to replace, so you know, that's not a big issue to me. Other than that, same type thing. The only thing that I would say against these grills that I don't like now, and I'm not sure when Weber started doing it, but they make these legs out of these thin hollow tubes now. I feel like I could just squeeze it in and dent it in if I wanted to. They hold up. I mean, I've never had one break on me, but they're just made super thin, and they used to be a heavier gauge metal years ago when I first, let's see, probably maybe about 10 years ago when I bought one. And like I said, I'm not sure when they switched over, you know, building these things cheaper, but I do wish they would use a little bit more solid leg on it. But anyway, that one's it. That's going to be it for the 26 inch. All right, and last but not least, this is my Big Green Egg. This is the extra large. I paired it with a Flame Boss, and I got this a couple years back, maybe even 3 years ago. So it's the older model Flame Boss. I think they have a newer one now. And I, you know, pardon the table, I just built this myself, and it's not my best work, but I kind of threw it together, to be honest, and stained it. Just put a bottle opener there, and then I put a little rack over the side. Oh, and while I see this, you know, if for any of you that haven't seen it on the news, stay away from wire brushes to clean. I actually need to throw that one away. They've had tons of issues with the metal bristles coming off and sticking to the grill grate and the food, and people swallowing them, and does all kind of damage, as you can imagine, and end up in the hospital. One of the latest stories was a small boy. So just a quick tip on that one, stay away from those. All right, so underneath you have a slide here, and this is what you use, the area that you use to clean it out. You open that up and you scrape it all out, all the ashes. And if anybody's interested, you know, I can do a video on that. I know a lot of people have already done videos on these, so, you know, I'm not doing a whole lot with it. Other than that, down at the bottom, if I can get these separated one-handed. Hold on just a second, let me sit you down. Okay, it's kind of stuck there, but it has a screen, and this is the way that you adjust the temperature on a Big Green Egg. You use that slider and close it off so less air can go inside, and that's going to adjust your temperature. You use that along with the top vent as well, open and close, and that's what you get your temperature from. With the Flame Boss, then you just put this in instead, and it has the little fan that blows air in, and it controls the temperature for you. On the top, you got your temperature gauge. This is just a cover. They make different, you know, you can get a Big Green Egg top for this, or you can get aftermarket tops to control your heat. The inside of this guy, and the last brisket I did, I never did clean it out. So the ceramic tray that you see in here laid inside is actually what you use to cook indirectly. So that's what I use primarily. Like I said, I've never cooked hamburgers, chicken, hot dogs on this. I've only used it for brisket. The inside of it. And then I'm not going to pull all this out and really show you the inside. You know, there's tons of videos on it and reviews on Big Green Eggs. My thoughts on it, if I had to do it over again, and I wouldn't have bought it. To me, it's just not worth the money. I mean, with the accessories and stuff like that, and the Flame Boss, I mean, I think I spent $1,400 or $1,500 on this thing in one pop, and that was without even building the table. You don't use regular charcoal in these, you have to use lump coal. That's a little bit more expensive anyway. And the thing is, like, before I got this, I could, you know, you can do a brisket on a Weber. It doesn't seal up, so keeping the temperature consistent on a Weber is a little more difficult, but it can be done. The other thing is the electric smoker that we're going to go to next. You can cook a brisket in that, and turns out perfect. So if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have bought the Big Green Egg, but I have it. You know, I've had people ask me, why don't you sell it? Well, you know, I kind of built this lower deck down here, and you can see we're up under the larger deck. Excuse the mess back there where my construction and projects continue. But I built this lower deck down here, you know, right at the pool. just for this basically, and to grill off of. If I got rid of it, you know, the only thing about putting a Weber down here, I'd actually have to brace it or mount it to the floor in some way so that the wind wouldn't blow it off. Because actually this is where I had the Weber that I lost. The wind blew it off and it rolled and hit the concrete and all over there. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions about any of this setup. The Flame Boss, you know, works really well. I do enjoy that. Personally, I wouldn't do a Big Green Egg without one, because I can hook that up to my wireless, and I have an app on my phone, and I can control it and see exactly where the temperature is and set alerts and things like that. So that has worked out really well. I think that's worth the money. At the time, I believe they were $300, something like that. I don't know what the new ones go for, but that's definitely worth it if you're going to have a Big Green Egg. But that'll end that. And last but not least, this is my Masterbuilt electric smoker. I've had this one for several years now as well. I apologize, it's very dirty, but I really don't take the time to wipe down the outside. It stays covered out here, but still gets dust and pollen all over it. So that's kind of the little controls for it. You can basically turn on a light inside it. You can push a button for the meat probe to see what the meat temperature is. You turn it on and off. It's got your temperature settings up and down, and then you can set a timer on it as well. It does come with a remote. It gives you the same buttons and features on that. I found that works about 15 to 20 feet away from it if I'm going inside and through the door. There's nothing on that side. Of course, we'll go around the back here. The back does have a grease tray, but I always put a grease pan inside, like a disposable foil pan to catch grease, so I really don't use that. It's got wheels on the back of it and a handle, so you can kind of tip it backwards and roll it wherever you'd like. On this side, this is where you put in your wood chips. See, that's gotten some use, but it just has that little cup, and you fill it up with your wood chips, you slide it in, and then you turn it and it dumps them out into the wood chip tray on the inside. A little latch to open it. Okay, and then it has several racks. You know, you can put them where you want to as far as how many things you're going to be cooking. The lower racks where I always put a drip pan, and then I usually just use this one and take the top one out when I'm cooking. Like I said, I usually do pork butts in this more than anything else. Then that's your wood chip tray. That's where you get your smoke from. So like I said, you can load it up to start with, and then you can always go back and add more wood chips if you want a little bit heavier smoke flavor throughout the cook process. But that'll be it on that guy. Let me know if you have any questions on that one. It is super convenient. You know, at one point in time when I was getting into grilling, I always said, you know, an electric smoker is cheating, you know, I'm not going to go that route. And they actually, one day I went in the store and they had this one on sale. It was a pretty good deal. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but I said, you know, I'm just going to try it out. Well, I, you know, cooked a few things in it. I loved it. It was so easy and convenient. So I got to where that's the primary go-to for pork butt. I haven't really done a brisket in it. I stuck with the Big Green Egg to do those, but I mean, you could do one and I'm sure it'd be great. All right, and that's the end of that one. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about that one.